Morning, everybody. Morning, everybody. If you would, please take your seats and we'll go ahead and get started this morning. Chairman Lynch, would you open us up with a word of prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love and your goodness to us and for watching over us and caring for us. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity that you have given to each of us to be here in this role. We pray that you would give us your wisdom, your guidance, your understanding, so that we might make good decisions that would be beneficial to the people of Georgia and would be pleasing to you. We ask these things in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Thanks, sir. Before we get started this morning, we got some special guests in the room with us today. Two young men from down in my area, the Wares. They're going to be paging for me today, and they're back here in the back. Would y'all help me welcome them to the Capitol? That's Bowen and Hudson Ware. They're my neighbors there, so y'all be nice to them, please. Okay. Glad to have you guys with us today. Hope you have a good day. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We got some requests here. Chairman Chokers, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you House Bill 471. It's on page 5, about 8th from the top. HB 471 emphasizes the importance of water safety education for children by implementing a video presented to new mothers at the hospital prior to being discharged at no cost to the state, with the video being prepared by the Department of Public Health in collaboration with Every Child a Swimmer Foundation. We have met with the Georgia Hospital Association, and they are supportive of this measure, sir, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chair Lee Camp.
Thank you, and good morning, committee members. I bring you H.R. 29, which is on page 6. I believe it's about midway down. I think it's 8. And this resolution it deals with unanticipated funds and judgments that come into the state. Anything above $10 million will be appropriated by the General Assembly, and it is a constitutional amendment.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Representative Osteen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I bring House Bill 262, LC 570232S. This bill establishes a grant for rural hospitals to correct an obvious problem that Hurricane Helene unveiled during its path of destruction through Georgia last September. The current required minimum generating capacity to prove to be woefully insufficient during this time of widespread disaster, with some hospitals going without power or water for a week or more. The criteria are that rural hospitals are in rural counties that are located within the 41 counties that the governor declared during a state of emergency. They must have less than fewer beds, and in a county with a population of less than 5,000 residents.
Thank you, ma'am. Don't see any questions. For the presenters, if you would please identify where on the sheets these are. It just makes it easier for the members to find it, and we'll move along in a little quicker manner. Thank you. Senator Kirkpatrick, what you got for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today I have Senate Bill 8, which is a department bill from DHS. And what it does is it realigns two sections of the code. It's on page 6, about halfway down. And there's a conflict between Title 15, which includes the juvenile code, and Title 17, the criminal code, which relates to arrest warrants. And the bill clarifies that juvenile court judges have full authority to issue arrest warrants based on probable cause.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Representative Cox.
Page 6, fourth one from the top, HB 556. This bill is basically taking anyone who's renting a boat that currently, if there's more than one renter, or more than one person on said boat, then a second individual should also watch a video to know how to operate the boat. If you're by yourself on the boat, that stays the same. It's simply just adding if an additional person's on the boat. That's what the bill does.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thanks, sir. Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two this morning, if I may. First one is on page 5, second from the bottom, House Bill 521. House Bill 521 is a follow-up to a de-annexation bill we did a couple of years ago. What this does is it allows county-owned properties where the county wishes to de-annex. It requires the municipality to provide an answer on that within 90 days. That was an open-ended window on the original code as it is now. And then we further added to that shape files resulting from the de-annexation be required to be provided to the Legislative Reapportionment Office.
Okay, don't see any questions on that one. You got another one?
Yes, sir. Page 7, seventh from the bottom is House Bill 297. This is, again, a follow-up. A couple of years ago, we identified multipurpose off-highway vehicles for special consideration for a voluntary registration and a license plate. We found out in the process that the Department of Revenue is not charging ad valorem tax, but they're doing it through a bulletin. So what we're trying to do is just codify their exemption from ad valorem tax.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you,
you.
sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have HB 491 this morning. It's on page 5, just a little past halfway down the sheet. This is the air gun and catfish bill that's passed last year. Two small changes on page 2. Top of the page, the sunset was 2025. We're extending that sunset to 2030. And in section 2, we're changing the channel catfish and flathead to say any catfish. And one other change on the changing the Savannah River from the waters of this state. That's the only changes. Both those have been approved by DNR and the Georgia Wildlife Federation.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Chastain. Don't see any questions. Representative Seaball, Whip Seaball.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Georgia Code right now allows law enforcement agencies.
What's your number?
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 6, number 2. Georgia Code allows law enforcement.
549, is that it?
I'm sorry.
What number?
House Bill. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm presenting House Bill 459 on page 6, number 2. 549.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm presenting a bill today, 549. Page 6, number 2, I think. Georgia Code allows law enforcement agencies to recover training costs when the officer they train leaves the department to go to work for another agency. This bill extends the time frame for law enforcement agencies to seek reimbursement for those training expenses from 15 to 36 months. Last year, Georgia Post increased the training requirements from 400 hours to 800 hours. That's the reason for the change, and I ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you for that thorough explanation of that. Don't see any questions.
Thank you. I also want to remind everybody today's EMS day at the Capitol, and they're downstairs, and if you want to stop by and see your ambulance service,
Thanks, sir.
they love it.
Okay, Chairman LaHood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got today House Bill 513. It's on the bottom third of page 5. And House Bill 513 is, I'd call it a cleanup bill. Last year, I had House Bill 1407, which was an update to the Code of Service Delivery Strategy, how counties and cities negotiate with each other every 10 years on who's going to provide what services to parts of the county. And so this is just, last year was the first time the code had been updated in about 20 years. And so there was a lot to do. And so this year we're just cleaning up, tightening up a little bit more to clarify the sources of revenue counties can use to serve unincorporated areas and provide accounting mechanisms to avoid costly and timely conflicts between cities and counties. That's all I've got.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring you, with your permission, 3 bills today. One that you've already heard but has now been improved. HB 56 is the second one down on the first page under modified structured rule. That bill, as you've heard, adds spouses to the Memorial Safety Grant. It has now been improved, Chairman, to have a new section that you will see therein that allows us to provide the same benefit to the spouses and the children of teachers that would be slain or permanently injured in the line of duty as well. That is House Bill 56, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, don't see any questions on that one. What's your next one?
Okay. Next one, Mr. Chairman, if you will go to page 5, the top one of on the sheet there, 443. That is a reef fish bill. This bill very simply creates an endorsement, basically a new permit for offshore fishermen, resident and non-resident, $10 for residents, $20 for non-residents. This is being requested by our fishermen who fish offshore so that we can raise revenue to do our own Georgia-based fishery surveys and get away from the federal government. The federal government now has surveys that are completely, even by their own standards, inaccurate, and they're making decisions about things that we could make ourselves. Other states all along the Gulf, to include Florida, have taken over their whole fishery, even outside Georgia waters, and we're trying to do that as well. That is House Bill 443, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, don't see any questions. What's your
All right.
other one?
The last one, Mr. Chairman, is a department bill. It is on page 6, about a third of the way down, House Bill 584. House Bill 584, Mr. Chairman, is a bill offered by the Department of Community Health and the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. We are moving the regulation of certain facilities under right now the Healthcare Facility Regulation Division of DCH to DBHDD because they are things that DBHDD is fully engaged in. That would include community living arrangements for the intellectually disabled, mental health treatment facilities, and substance abuse centers. So we're going to move those to DBHDD, and this is at the request of both commissioners. The money's already in the budget, in the governor's budget, Chairman.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir, come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I've got House Bill 569. It's on page 6, number 6. This is a Department of Labor bill which will help modernize the department. Currently, claimants are notified of decisions via the U.S. mail, and this bill would allow them at the time that they file their claim to opt in to provide an email, and in addition to being mailed, a decision can also receive that electronically. Will speed up the process and help those claimants as well as the employers and the department.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, Representative Howard.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Representative Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is House Bill 165. It's on page 7, right close to the top there. What this does is trying to give some help to the past hurricane, some hurricane relief victims, and it allows those that cannot take their net casualty losses on itemized taxes to be able to do it on the standard for their standard tax deduction.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Hilton. Chairman Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, if you turn with me to page 5, about 3/4 of the way down, we'll discuss House Bill 506. On page 5, House Bill 506, individuals on Medicaid smoke at a rate that is twice as high as the typical population. We are expanding Medicaid access to cover tobacco cessation products with the idea of saving Medicaid millions of dollars in the long run.
Got a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the gentleman, are you all going to do something about vaping with this as well?
So this would cover vaping as well. Excellent question. Yeah.
So is it just going to be providing them those products, or is it going to be a campaign? What is it going to be?
So it would cover tobacco cessation products, so think nicotine patches, I think treatments, et cetera. So currently those are not covered. They would go in, no copay. It would be included on their Medicaid coverage.
Thank you.
Okay. Don't see any other questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Gaines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 7, House Bill 370. This legislation will provide some transparency for property owners, taxpayers, on property tax bills. If a local government opted out of House Bill 581, then on the tax bill it would have to include language saying that they opted out of property tax relief for homeowners. If they're a school system, it would also have to include the amount of reserves they have in their system, as well as how much reserves per student they have. There is exceptions for if you have a full senior exemption on school systems, or if you have a similar homestead exemption for all property owners.
Okay. No, do have a question. Leader Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you mad at your local people or what?
Well, I'm disappointed that across the state so many folks have opted out of what was common sense property tax relief. That it's not going to cost these local governments or local school systems revenue. It'll just slow the growth in revenue. And so I think my hope is, especially when you recently saw $6.5 billion in cash reserves that school systems have across the state, $6.5 billion. I think it's important that taxpayers know that their local governments opted out of common sense property tax relief.
In defense of my locals, we already have a freeze. So that's why I was not understanding.
And this legislation wouldn't apply then in that case.
So we would be exempted.
That's right.
Thank
if
you.
you already have a freeze, this legislation does not apply.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chairman Stevens has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't it true that 65 taxing districts all over the state have some sort of freeze as much as 24 years? And is it also true that 581 brings back every penny of revenue from the previous year plus a cost of living index?
That's right.
Okay, we're doing good. We got like a Christmas tree here. Chairman Martin.
For a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true what I think you just said was for all these governments that are concerned with this, reducing an increase does not mean a decrease?
That's true.
Okay, I thought I heard you say that. I just want to be clear. Reducing the increase does not mean they get less money from their
That's
taxpayer.
right.
Okay, Chairman Powell.
My friend, in the discussion on this, I think I've already spoke to you, my local officials in my counties, and I think we've had a few of the cities up my way that opted in, but most of the counties and school boards opted out. Have you had any discussion with them that their optics of this is a retribution to them for not opting into this? Because I am being eat up with phone calls.
I haven't. I mean, I have not heard that. I will say that work with ACCG and GMA, and they're neutral on the bill. Because I do think the majority of counties and cities have stayed in 581.
Okay. Representative Evans, do you have a question? Okay. Okay, no more questions on that. Did you have another one also?
I did. On page 5, I mentioned this yesterday, but it wasn't on the blue sheet, but 454, the Vince Dooley Battlefield Trust bill. I won't repeat it, but I did want to mention one other, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 246, the Sheriff's Qualifications Bill. I worked with Speaker Pro Tem Jones, sent it back to committee and made some improvements, and think we have a good piece of legislation that came out of committee yesterday.
Okay. Don't see any more questions. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Monahan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the committee. I have House Bill 215. I actually have two bills, Mr. Chairman. But House Bill 215 is on the second page. It's 6th down. What this bill does is it removes Georgia from the ERIC voter list maintenance organization. Right now, about 9 other states have left ERIC, leaving the system pretty well ineffective. This would put us in some joint compacts with states that surround us. Nearly 75% of the folks who move in and out of the state of Georgia actually come from our bordering states, and the only state that's left in Eric is South Carolina, and it's my understanding that they are making movements to leave as well. With that, Mr. Chairman, I stand for questions.
Okay, don't see any, well, we do see a question. Representative Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is there right now contemplated an alternative to Eric?
There is, and we contemplate that in the bill. That's going to be joint compacts or state-to-state initiatives.
And can you just tell me briefly what it is about Eric that is, I mean, it's a sort of nonpartisan, data-driven method of tracking irregularities and voter fraud. What is it about Eric that you feel like we need to change? Like, what has happened?
Yeah, I would say that the best part of it is that it's out of our control at this point. So many states have left Eric. I'll give you an example. Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Iowa, Arkansas, West Virginia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina, and now South Carolina looks like they're about to pull out too.
Okay, but there has never been a breach, is that correct?
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
There has never been a breach, is that correct?
Well, so I would say that data is one side of the equation here. The other side of the equation has to be, is the data effective, and is the organization effective at their job? And quite frankly, if they don't have access to these states' data, it makes it qualitatively ineffective for our state.
It is the only way, though, is it not, to catch double voters?
No.
It is not the only way?
No.
What other way is there?
State-to-state compacts or joint compacts, as is contemplated in the bill.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Evans, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author, what is the rationale for taking, whether it's good or bad to move out of certain organizations and into others, what is the rationale for taking this out of the Secretary of State's office and removing the discretion of that office with folks who are committed to election integrity and running our voting system? What's the rationale of taking any discretion away from them and putting it solely in us?
Yeah, I don't think there's I guess the question is, why are we taking away from the Secretary of State's office? I would just say that this bill is about making sure that ERIC is no longer the voter list maintenance organization for Georgia. And of course, I'm open for discussion. We had plentiful discussion in the Government Affairs Committee. Of course, we came there 7 full. That's not something that was contemplated by any of the members of the committee. I'd love to hear that input, but at this point, we just got to make sure that the data that we have is actually effective, and I think that's the most important part.
Did anyone go and provide pros and cons to the Secretary of State, and he refused to move us out of ERIC? What exactly has anyone talked to him about this at all, or the office?
It's interesting, I think, and that is that the Secretary of State's office is actually, I think, one of the employees in the Secretary of State's office is now the director of ERIC. So I don't know if maybe he's a little bit biased or not, but at some point, and I can't tell you, I don't know his heart, but I'll say this, just to say and to succinctly say about this bill is, if someone is not providing us the data, then the data is wholly ineffective. And so if Alabama's not working with these folks, and Tennessee and Florida and others, I would just contend that it's ineffective. But thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Okay, you got another one? Do you have another bill?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to move on. House Bill 374 is on the 4th page. It's approximately, it's 3 bills down right there. House Bill 374 is a measure aimed at increasing transparency and security in Georgia's housing market by requiring the disclosure of foreign adversary ownership of residential rental properties. With growing concerns about foreign entities acquiring American real estate, this bill ensures that local governments and communities have the necessary information to protect their housing markets from potential external and internal economic manipulation. The key points of the bill, Mr. Chairman, is it requires 10 contiguous dwellings to be captured. This does not include apartments or short-term rentals. They have been excluded in this bill. But ultimately, it's about making sure that the folks that are building these units or build-to-rent type communities, and I will say this, Mr. Chairman, and this is just a point of privilege from Paulding County. A shocking statistic came out, Mr. Chairman, and that is that of the single-family residential rental market in Paulding County, Georgia, 83% is owned by institutional investors, and that is the 21 largest real estate residential hedge funds in the nation. 83%. That is a shocking number. It made my jaw drop. And Mr. Chairman, this bill seeks to have some more information about these actors within our community and whether or not they have foreign influence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, member.
Representative Ridley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring you House Bill 186. It's a few years ago, this assembly decided to eliminate the, page 7, 6 down, sorry.
Okay.
House Bill 186, a few years ago, this assembly decided to eliminate the transfer tax on titles for immediate family members. This bill is just closing a loophole that when the immediate family member dies, you have to pay an inheritance tax.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring to you House Bill 397. It's on page 4, 8 down from the top. What this does is addresses early voting on Saturdays for municipalities. As of now, the code says that each municipality is mandated to have 2 early Saturday voting days. What this does, it allows the municipalities to opt out of either one or both of those early voting Saturdays after the city council has had or governing body has had a public hearing and has officially voted on it. This comes from a lot of smaller municipalities across the state that either has very little turnout on Saturdays or zero turnout on Saturdays. Also in the bill, a recommendation from Gavrio dealing with a special election that is held on odd number years, the 3rd Tuesday in September. It is removing that special election date because it is so close to the general election in November, and counties are already preparing for the general elections. It helps them with the processes. It also addresses the appointment of state election board members for the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate when the legislature is not in session.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Chairman Martin.
Yes, sir. Just to jump, so isn't it true that most all the cities in Georgia are in a single county? There's very few that span counties. In fact, that is not legal or I believe constitutional. So am I correct in saying all the voters that would participate in these city elections are going to be treated equally?
That's correct.
They're either all going to get a Saturday or they're all are not going to get a Saturday, but it's just going to be treated.
It'll be
I'm sorry, less one Saturday, so I don't mean to pick the number of Saturdays. My point is, isn't it true all the voters are going to be treated equally?
That's correct, yes.
As opposed to like if it was statewide, a county could opt in and one county would have more opportunity to vote. Everybody, regardless of precincts, is going to have the same opportunity to vote.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question, but I want to follow up on Chairman Martin's. Can you explain to me how we are ensuring that everybody's going to be treated the same?
What this will do, this will allow each municipality to decide by looking at their numbers. I mean, myself, I have a very rural district. I have 11 municipalities. Many of them are very small, some less than 500 voters. They either have zero participation on Saturday voting or very little, and it's very expensive for small municipalities. So what this does, it allows the city council, each city council, to hold a public hearing, have that discussion, and then the city council vote if they want to opt out and have one Saturday voting or both Saturday votings. So each municipality could be different, so yes.
You could. That's my point. You would agree with me that you could have different municipalities within a single county that have different.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that could potentially create some confusion for our voters. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, what it does, it leaves the local control and let them decide what they want to do. This is not affecting Saturday voting for federal elections, state elections, or county elections. This is only municipal elections and your smaller municipalities that it would affect it. Some of my municipalities probably would opt out. City of Atlanta absolutely wouldn't because of their voter turnout.
And I appreciate the concern about costs, but what has happened? I mean, I think we've had Saturday voting now for at least over a decade. Has something changed recently to cause us to put this in our code? Did it come from the cities?
Yes, this has actually come up from municipalities to me, and I've talked to elections directors across the state. And in committee, we actually amended it from Representative Roberts to have each council have the public hearing and decide what they want to do.
for the municipality.
But this was a concern that just happened recently.
No, it's been a concern. I mean, you have municipalities that are mandated to do the Saturday voting for 2 Saturdays, and it's been an issue for several terms. So this gives them the option to decide what they want to do in their community.
And one last question, respecting local control, there's been some effort and some requests from local municipalities, especially for several years now, to allow them to at least try pilots or opt in to ranked choice voting so that they don't have to run all these runoff elections. Has there been any discussion about allowing local control in that regard and cost savings in that regard?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Folks, I want everybody to get their questions answered, but y'all going to get me fired by the speaker. It's after 9, and we certainly want to get your questions answered. And the last inquiry she waived, so would y'all please sort of get together offline and let him answer any questions that you have for you? It would be appreciated.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. On page 3, I previously talked to you about House Bill 298, which is for our nurses, and House Bill 320, which is for our environment. I'm flipping the page today to the bottom of page 4. House Bill 432 is for our turkeys. It's a measure aimed to help turkey conservation in our state by providing 2 new mechanisms for funding to help with that. We're glad to answer your questions.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you,
Thank you. I'd ask for favorable consideration.
Thank you. Chairman Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 bills, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. First bill is House Bill 244, page 2, bottom of page 2, 5 up from the bottom. House Bill 244 will provide some additional flexibility in the state's annual audit requirements for small local governments whose expenditures are less than $2.5 million. The need for this bill came out of the 2023 Rural Development Council recommendations, which specifically directed the state auditor to come up with a reasonable way of reducing some of the accounting burden on our smaller local governments. Along with Ledge Council and the state auditor, Mr. Griffin, we worked exclusively with the GMA and ACCG to come up with some simpler accounting methods that will allow some non-compliant local governments to receive critical state funding while still maintaining accountability of government expenditures at the local level.
Okay. Got a question?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Green, Dean Green.
Thank you for bringing forth this bill. This is one that the Rural Development Council worked on for 2 years. Our state auditor, Greg Griffin, and it will really help a lot of over 100 cities and counties throughout the area. Thank you so much for bringing this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What's your next one?
House Bill 451, top of page 5, 1 from the top. House Bill 451 would allow local boards of education to provide instruction in hunter safety in grades 6 through 12 by Georgia DNR certified instructors beginning of the 2026-2027 school year. The course is already being taught in over 100 schools across the state by over 400 certified instructors. Some of the instructors are from our law enforcement division from DNR, some are volunteers, some are teachers in the school. The bill requires any instruction provided to be based on the hunter education courses already established by the DNR and must be taught by a DNR qualified instructor. In crafting the bill language, we worked with the Sportsman's Caucus, the Department of Education, and DNR to follow what is already being taught. The language we now just makes it part of the code.
Okay, don't see any questions. You got another one?
Yes, sir. House Bill 129, it's on page 7, second from the top. House Bill 129 deals with the topic I have a good bit of experience with. That's our conservation use laws. This same bill passed almost unanimously out of the House last year. It also came as a recommendation from the Senate Study Committee on Preservation of Farmland. It incorporates all the original CUVA qualifying restrictions for eligibility. That was important, but it does add some flexibility for non-family farm entities.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Smith.
I'll be quicker than the Yankee Military Academy grad, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 500. It's the eighth from the bottom on page 5. This is the TANF bill. Mr. Chairman, this bill updates the TANF program after 28 years. I believe you and some others were still here then. And this increases monthly benefit, and under this bill, they would be at about 30% of the federal poverty line. It would increase the maximum income limit for an individual or family to be eligible
allows a family to have up to $5,000 in assets and savings. That particularly allows them to still own a vehicle and not be disqualified from the program. It extends the time limit from 48 months to 60 months, and this does not change any of TANF's strict work requirements that are already in the code. Mr. Chairman, I would assume that there'll be a few questions about the increased cost. Estimate that to be between 12 and 14 million. However, we already underspend our TANF federal block grant money that's sent down to us by about 61 million. So we feel very confident that the federal money would cover that increased cost.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Williamson, Representative Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is $5,000 too low? I mean, honestly, if you're trying to encourage savings, encourage good fiscal discipline and financial responsibilities, I wish we'd consider raising that to 7,500 to 10,000 or something more reasonable.
To my friend from the other SoCon school, I would gladly welcome any rules substitute if you wanted to offer that.
Okay.
Maybe they'll fix it on the other side.
Okay. Leader Hughley, you got a question?
Chairman, that was my concern. $5,000 will not get you a car. Will not, you know, a car that's valued at $5,000, you walking.
Sounds like you got some folks wanting to help you. Chairlady Cooper has a question.
Is it not true that the current amount that they are allowed for a car is either $2,000 or $2,500?
That's correct, and we have a situation of where for them to qualify to even provide diapers for their babies, which is a little bit of a soft spot for me right now, they're having to get rid of the vehicle to still be able to provide that for their children.
And is it not true that we were trying not to shock everybody by going up to $7,500 or more, but it's a really good suggestion?
That's correct, Madam Chair. I was taught not to look a gift horse in the mouth too hard.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Martinez, Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. I got House Bill 324, which is the third page in the middle. Basically, Chairman, this provides preferential treatment during advance and election day voting, 9:30 to 4:30 p.m. during the for voters that are blind, deaf, amputee, pregnant, accompanied by children of 2 years of age or younger, or accompanied by children with special needs regardless of age, and 75 years and older.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Chairman Parrish, members of the Rules Committee. I have two bills from yesterday that are not yet on the blue sheet, but were reported out, and a lot of members of the committee asked for them. One is House Bill 579, the Blue Ribbon Professional Licensing Commission bill. This will modernize Georgia licensing, bring it into the 21st century, and improve customer service. Thank Chairman Hatchett for leading that committee. And then House Bill 531, this is a municipal sovereign immunity bill. House Judiciary worked over the past month or so with our Georgia cities and the trial lawyers and have established some numbers that protect local government budgets from infinity liability like they've started encountering.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Don't see any questions. Any members of the committee? Okay. Representative Lunson.
House Bill 238, page 2, about 10 down. This bill authorizes the creation of a course of training at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center to help our first responders in dealing with those that they encounter that have dementia and Alzheimer-related illnesses. The request comes from the Alzheimer's Association in conjunction with the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. The reason we need a bill is because I understand there's an appropriations component which is already in place. They just need the bill in order for that course to be created.
Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand because I got a lot of lights up here. No questions on that. Thank you. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the yellow sheet, HB 576, it's a peer-to-peer payment platform delay. It asks for 15-minute grace period whenever there is a transfer of money on the peer-to-peer platform. There are a few bad actors that have cost Georgians millions of dollars in lost dollars. This bill passed out of Agriculture and Consumer Affairs unanimously.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir. Shirley Cooper, you have a request?
Yes, sir, I do. I'd like to ask for House Bill 91. That is the bill that was supposed to be on the floor for a vote on Wednesday. It had a Scribner's era of when it was referring to another part of the law. It was 45 instead of 43, and I would ask for it to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Leader Hughley, did you have your light on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Representative Bazemore is here, and she has a bill that passed out of Education Committee last night. Can she ask for it? It hadn't made the yellow sheet yet.
Well, we don't have it on our list yet. Go ahead and ask for it if you want to. And you going to ask for it? How about let's do this? Let's wait and get it on the list, and we'll make sure we get to you. If we've still got several more to go, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Shirley Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills. The first is House Bill 250 on page 2, third from the bottom. This is a professional employer organization bill. It defines what a PEO is. It is establishing the reporting standards. It's going to be under the oversight of the Insurance Commissioner's Office, and it's giving us the necessary state enforcement tools. There was discussion about workers' compensation in the meeting. However, all workers' comp information has been removed from the bill.
Okay.
The second, are there questions?
Okay.
The second bill I have is House Bill 291, and it's at top of page 3. And this is the bill for community health care workers, and they're very needed. We had a lot of discussion about it. They're going to be a great help to our rural health care.
Don't see any questions. Thank you. Chairman Jaspers, you have a request?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, I have bring House Bill 248. It's allowing Georgia families to utilize the Earth's natural heat in using geothermal technology. It allows for a 25% state income tax on credit on. It's on the very last page. Find Ways and Means bill. Sorry about that. It allows for a 25% state income tax credit on the installation expenses of residential geothermal, help reduce the overall power load that's out there, has a cap of $2.5 million, and also creates guidance for DOR to utilize and enforce the cap.
Yep. Okay, thank you, sir. Chairman Blackman, do you have a request?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. House Bill 463 is on page 7. Second up from the bottom, it would allow local governments to provide a senior homestead exemption off of their property tax through volunteer service.
Okay, Chairman Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring to you this morning House Bill 467 on page 5. This is a monument protection bill. This cleans up some inconsistencies and oddities in the law, but most importantly, it gives local governments a tool that they can run an ad for 90 days to see if anyone wants to take claim to a monument to be moved to their location, either before litigation or after litigation, after the courts have ruled. It's just a tool for them to have a way of doing away with these monuments instead of putting them somewhere and having to pay the storage cost and all of that.
Okay.
And I'd also like to ask for 455 and 247 that I've already presented to this committee.
Okay, don't have to ask but once. Thank you. Representative Holcomb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills. The first is on page 4. It's House Bill 385. The committee's familiar with this. It passed last year. It's the bill to revise HOPE to allow high-achieving students to apply the HOPE credit towards professional and graduate education. They'd have to be responsible for the difference between the undergraduate rate and the professional and graduate rate. And then the second one is House Bill 518 at the bottom of page 5. And this does 3 things. It would ban do-it-yourself sexual assault kits, which, believe it or not, exists and are a really bad idea. The second thing that it does is update Senate Bill 304 with a minor tweak, and then it also provides for a certificate to make sure our sexual assault nurse examiners have the right training.
Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir. Chairman Martin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have two items. The first is House Bill 445. That's toward the bottom, third up from the bottom on page 7. This measure does three things. The first section just cleans up the notice to the printed words on a taxpayer's bill. Legislative Council suggested that cleanup. The second section allows a different path to streamline owners of personal property valued in excess of $200,000. They would be able to go to a hearing officer directly rather than the Board of Equalization. That is a taxpayer decision, and they can do that at no cost to them. They're not required to have an attorney to do that, but that gets them in front of a more expert body to determine their appeal, and we believe it'll unclog the Superior Court. And in the third section, or it's actually in the second section, but the last page of the bill allows for the counties to have a different class of hearing officer in order to do that, and directs the real estate board to make those a list of those individuals available, again, to be taxpayer friendly and move things through the court.
I don't see any questions.
If I may, also House Bill 560.
Wait a minute. There we go. Try it now.
House Bill 560 is in three parts. The main bill is actually Section 3. It is to bring parity in the loss negotiations starting after 2028. We have some issues where cities and counties can't get along, and sometimes they're in jeopardy of letting the tax sunset because of their inability to negotiate in good faith. This bill stands everybody at an equal place and makes sure that no political subdivision within the state would get less than their population share. It's a fair bill. Section 2 of the bill is language Chairman Blackman provided for us to improve the 581 language from last year that allowed for the base level homestead exemption and the FLOST program should people have that, not opt out of that base year homestead exemption. It's cleanup language we need to make sure that we don't put anybody at a disadvantage. Part 1 of the bill allows for eSPLOS construction projects funded by eSPLOS monies to be exempt. The materials in those capital projects would be exempt from a local sales tax as long as the projects
How much more you got?
That's it. All right. I'm good with that. It's a tax reduction for education.
Thank you. Senator Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Bringing Senate Bill 35, it would require insurance companies to give 60 days notice if they intend to non-renew someone's homeowner's insurance policy. Current law is 30 days.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator. Okay, have we got all the members? Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 7, middle of the page, HB 360. In anticipation of the World Cup, this will allow investors to utilize historic tax credits where they're currently in the queue as long as they complete their projects by 2026 in anticipation of these major events.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any questions. Chairman Banner, do you have a request?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have before the committee the last two bills on page 4, House Bill 434, just basically moves the offense of selling a child for financial gain from one section of the code to another, to the criminal section of the code. Any questions? No.
Okay.
House Bill 435 allows for the Department of Family and Children Services a carve-out for child pornography. If they were to possess child pornography, they could not be prosecuted if it were in the during the conduct of their actual employment. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Don't see any questions. Let's see, anybody else? Whip, Do you have anything? Nothing else? Okay, I think that takes care of all our requests. All right, let's set a calendar for Monday. It'll be day 26. Under modified structure, House Bill 89.
Move.
Have a move and a second. Is there any opposition? It's on. House Bill 296.
Move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any opposition? 296 is on. House Bill 327.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? 327 is on. House Bill 358.
Move.
Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 378.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 413.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 416.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Under structured, House Bill 186.
Move.
Any opposition? It's on. Also under structured, House Bill 290.
Move.
Any opposition? It's on. Okay, let me go through those for you again. Under modified structured, House Bill 89, 296, 327, 358, 378, 413, 416, and under structured, 186 and 290. Y'all put in a good word for me with the speaker, okay? See y'all later.